What's up, man?
Nothing too exciting, man. Just trying to get through August.
Yeah. How's August treating you?
Well, you know how it is this time of year. There's like nothing going on. Everybody's on vacation.
Yeah.
I mean, you already took your 3 monthly vacations earlier, so.
Oh no, I'm taking 2 more before the month ends.
That's right. You got your little COVID vacation going.
I need one. I need one with this COVID fucking playing nurse and taxi driver. I am so much sympathy for caregivers, man. Just so much. Because this is for the birds. It's so hard to get any work done.
Yeah, can you imagine if there wasn't a nanny state at all? I mean, like, try 20 million dead.
You're not kidding, man. You're not kidding.
It's just insane with the amount of like. I mean, it's funny because I feel like now. We'll talk about COVID. Guys all have it, but it's like now we seem to be at that level where, it is just runs through and on. There's just it's kind of at that 70% level. So. But God knows we couldn't have done that at the beginning, or it would have dropped 20 million bodies. But because the hospitals would have gotten clogged. But now it kind of seems like it just is. You're going to get sick, you're going to get your boosters, and you're not going to get dead. But
well, my wife's got it worse. My wife's got it worse than my son. But she's also
careful.
She's a bit of a wimp when it comes to illness and a bit high maintenance. I love her to death, but she does not do sick well. My son is functional and doing some homework and playing video games, so it sucks. It was the first week of school though, because it's like, what a way to kick off the year. Anyway, we're just kind of clawing sideways here again, dude.
Yeah. I saw stuff was up a little bit. I mean, I don't see any, there's not a lot of meaningful stuff out there to really look at, unless you're going to pick individual stuff to trade on. I mean, I'm still sitting in all the same stuff. The only thing I've unloaded was the Define, just because it was up 400%. So I was kind of like, well, I'll take that and move on.
Right.
But as far as, I'm not really picking, ETH direction right now or BTC direction. I just don't. There's plenty of smarter people out there picking that. I mean, than me now. So
right.
I'm just going to say we're going to sit in that ETH channel until the 15th of September. This 50% ranging bind that it's been in between the 900 and 1900, let's say. I mean, that's the 100%. On the BTC side, it's 50%. We're just going to trade up and down in those ranges until something happens. But that's not like it's dead. There's plenty of money to be made. If we play it smart. But I think we just got to wait until we see, is more money stock market has to go up in value, or we don't have risk on capital to go into crypto. So to me, that has to happen next, whatever that is. I don't know. I saw we talked about this, I think, the other day, but I saw a really interesting study by one of the Washington think tanks. It was talking about China's population and how everybody's predicting it's going down to like 700 million people by 2100, or a couple of something, everybody. But a lot of people are predicting that it's going down, not up. Because of various demographic stuff in there, and that we're scaling up to 700 million people in this country, doubling in size at 2100. So I'm like, wow, how many through sensible
where are we going to put them?
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I thought it was interesting that now there's like people talking about this. We're at the same size countries in 78 years or so. It starts making me wonder. I started thinking more about how that is a way to kind of grow out of all the deficits, if we bring in that tax base. And then maybe that is a good long-term thing for, say, the crypto markets as far as capital going in, just because you do scale in size in the US. But, to me, I figure, I don't know what the big issue is here that's going to make it all of a sudden go boom again. I can't remember what did it in 2017. And I think we all know it was all the stimulus funding in the, post March 2020. But there's a ton of money out there. So, there's a lot of liquidity in real estate. There's a lot of money out there that once it decides to get off the sidelines, could be the catalyst that drives this up. Versus the other side, which, is expecting a downtrend. I don't know what it is, because I think it has to be a macro thing. It has to be a force majeure thing at this point, or it's just going to be a nice grind up, to me, after some kind of profit taking. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Look, I don't ever, you know me, I don't pontificate on what's going to happen in the market, but
really? Never?
Yeah, no, rarely. I mean, I might say, hey, I think ETH could go up because of, post merge, but
but you'll pick individual companies all the time.
I pick projects that I think have good bones, have good people, that kind of shit. But I've also been wrong on those picks, so
Oh yeah, everybody is. But my point is that I think we're in consensus that we are sitting here in this ranging action sideways until something happens.
Yeah.
Which means, to me, it means either a bunch of money comes in or a bunch of money goes out.
Right.
Because that's the only that's the way price goes up and down. So I don't know what that is. I mean, I'm not negative. I just am wondering if, I kind of feel like there's some surprises out there coming. And I don't mean negative surprises. I kind of have a feeling this economic stuff is going to be, surprising what you see in the U.S.
Well,
in particular.
good. I hope you're right.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Over 60% of U.S. parents in a poll say schools should teach crypto.
Yeah, I don't really know how you define that phrase, teach crypto, in the mind of everybody going, yes. I mean, I think everybody sees the question and goes, oh yeah, get rich.
Well, however they see the question, for me, the most important thing about this is the acceptance of crypto, right? Because 60% of parents thinking their kids need to understand this shit tells me that 60% of parents see crypto as here to stay, right?
Yeah, it's coming. Exactly. Yeah.
And so that to me is a very powerful number. Now, I don't know all the details on the poll, et cetera, but I'll take it because it is a sign that it has permeated, at least in the United States, the consciousness of the general public, and people accept that it is something that will be here. So I'm happy about that. Niblet said, last year thing pumped twice. What were the reasons for those pumps? Go ahead, Joe.
So I think we would have October. Well, the January to May one, obviously, the mega pump. When I look back at that, I think you see a lot of interesting activity around 3AC and Terra and other investors where you start seeing a lot of returns being chased at that point. I mean, at least you see it in those articles that I talked about the last week or so. You see a lot of stuff started happening around then. I don't know if it was everything levering up or what. As far as October, November, I definitely see a lot of correlation there between 3AC and Terra and all of that, because that's where you really see these decisions and all that after analysis stuff. And so suddenly all this capital is created. I think before, like DeFi summer, be 2020, I think a lot of people sitting at home with checks in their hand brought new money into the market.
Yeah.
And then that fed into January. There was some catalyst events in maybe December. Was there maybe another round of stimmy checks or something?
Well, yeah, don't forget that the government was paying beyond the stimmy checks. The government was paying checks to parents for their kids, right? So there were still
I forgot about that.
There were still checks going out monthly. I mean, it only ended probably about the time
I never got any of those.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Wow.
I think that maybe your filing level doesn't allow
you maybe there's like a you've got to be at like,
it was an income. It was bracketed by
thing.
income. It was bracketed by income level. So it was like, I think it was 60 and below, 60 to 90.
No, that's right. I remember reading about that because a lot of parents were now getting checks. It was the EIC stuff or something, but they were getting enough money to like feed their kids and buy clothes and everything. Finally,
it was like an advance on the tax break you get. Right.
Okay.
But it was only available to certain income levels. So there was still money pumping into folks' hands.
So I would say probably some of that was, niblets was that money going into the markets, but you can't discount how much U.S. institutional investment is in the market too, and how that affects price. That's a little bit more hidden. Because they're not showing up and doing market buys on, $100 million worth or $1 billion worth. They're OTCing it. They're doing trying to like not move stuff around too much at that point. So, to me, I think it has to be the excess capital, coming in those stages, and then activity within the market that drove certain returns up. And when you think about the Terra, the $45 billion face plant, that's a pretty sizable chunk of if the whole crypto market's $1 trillion, that's like a 4.5% goose egg right there. So, that can, when you think, I guess if we get the big Bitcoin moves, this blow off top sell offs, the money cascading down through ETH and shit coins and everything, $45 billion cascading down through all those Ethereum coins is going to make a lot of stuff move.
Right.
A lot of stuff move.
Right.
So, think about all the stuff we talk about. The market cap of a lot of these companies is, below $20 million. So 45 billion is going to have a huge impact on the, big shitcoin players in the top 100, let's say.
Right.
So I think that has big it's not a negative. It's just the way markets work in my mind.
Yeah.
Because we're not going off of valuing stock price off of earnings. We're not really looking at metrics on financial returns much at all. In these protocols and these plays. Some are getting there, but we're not really there yet. So that doesn't move the price, the discounted cash flow from the future. It's all about right now, events to me, and fresh money coming in to get yield or get returns or bank on upside. So, we got a ways to go to where it becomes actually when the company executes, that their token price is rewarded for that. That's not really there yet. I do see a little bit of like at FTT or whatever, or the FTX token. I think is that FTT.
It's FTT.
Yeah, I see people looking at that now in some traditional ways. Like the way you would look at, say, Coinbase.
Right.
And all their revenue streams. So I see some stuff happening. I'm not saying Coinbase is super performing, but I'm really intrigued now that they're the engine for all BlackRock's customers. I'm really curious what that's going to do to that one. But, right now, I just think it has to just be momentum, and money flows. The fact that this article you put up, Brad, with 60% of the parents, that tells me a couple of things. One, that they're looking at crypto as a skill for the future, as in
exactly.
Like you would be looking at software development, or you'd be looking at quantum computing, or
they think it's inevitable.
Genomics. It's something they want their kids to learn about.
They think it's inevitable, and they think it's probably an opportunity for them.
Absolutely,
right?
Keep them competitive. So.
Exactly. All right, so I want to.
What did Niplet say? Something. How much did Easy Fed money play in a reason? Yeah, exactly.
So I was listening to my buddies at Yunt Capital. They have a podcast. They do, and I was pretty fascinated by this discussion. I was listening to it on the way to dropping my daughter off at school, so I didn't get a chance to climb into all the details of it, but it's pretty fascinating. They haven't launched it yet, but here's how they describe it in their Twitter bio. CrocSwap is a single contract decentralized exchange combining concentrated and ambient liquidity with low gas fees. And the way the founder was describing it on the podcast, the Uncapital podcast, what do they call it? Goodwill Yunting. Yes, Goodwill Yunting. Was that there are three types of liquidity. Something very similar to kind of your standard Uniswap, DEX, V2, swapping liquidity, impermanent loss, the standard thing. The concentrated liquidity of Uniswap V3, where there are narrow ranges of liquidity that liquidity providers set. And then I'm going to draw a fucking blank on how this worked. And then a third type that seemed to sound like somehow they're encompassing both of those previous types for liquidity providers. I'm not sure how that works yet, but here was the thing that really struck me was the fact that they are, and I'm going to listen to the rest of the show and do a little reading, and we could talk about it another day, but the fact that they are, the thing that he pointed out was this: the reason they have a single contract is he comes from the high frequency trading space. But the reason he wanted a single contract, or one of the reasons he wanted a single contract, is that when you are interacting with these other exchanges, these other DEXs, you're actually transferring tokens because there are multiple contracts, you're transferring tokens from one contract to another contract to another contract. And so, number one, it's inefficient. Number two, it costs more gas. Number three, it gives the IRS something to grab hold of, because they could potentially consider it a transfer, a sale of the tokens, right? So doubling or tripling the number, or even more than that, the number of actual transactions that appear in your report, which made me think I need to go back and look at my tax filing and see if that's actually happening with past transactions. I'm sure it is. Anyway, they are claiming this is, highly efficient, much lower gas because it's one contract that you're interacting with, that it appeals to both, retail traders that want to get faster trades, best rate, but also for institutionals that want to move big money or want to provide liquidity at a significant scale. So anyway, we'll take a deeper dive into it. And I don't understand all the details of how it functions yet, but pretty impressive from the interview so far.
So they're saying, I get the premise, but are they saying there's one contract per swap there? Or
no, one contract total. There's only one contract. The parameters for every pool are stored in some kind of data file, JSON data file of some sort, and the parameters are pulled from that. So the only thing that gets edited are these data feed files. I have no idea how they're secured or encrypted or anything else, but that's what feeds the liquidity parameters and everything else back to the one contract. So everything about the DEX is inclusive in one single smart contract.
Now, so one giant smart contract.
Yeah, basically. I would assume it's pretty significant. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if
I have no idea.
It was one super tight one that just did everything, or if it was a giant all-encompassing. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, he didn't really get into. Yeah, it encompasses all the functionality of liquidity providing that they offer on the DEX and the swapping capability. I don't know how efficient their code was, but they are claiming that it performs much faster than your standard DEX. Obviously, you're not jumping between, multiple contract interactions. Yeah. And having three kind of forms of liquidity allows for more efficient price finding and less slippage, et cetera, et cetera. And the interesting thing is, his big vision is to be the exchange that prevents or that stops DeFi from having to use centralized exchanges for price discovery. Right. So almost all of our price
Interesting.
discovery now comes from centralized exchanges because that's where huge amounts of volume and liquidity are. That's where big market makers are, et cetera, et cetera. He wants this to become it. He wants this to circumvent Binance and everybody else in providing price discovery. So we'll see.
So does Uniswap and those, do they contribute price discovery to like the Chainlink oracles?
I don't know. I mean, I would assume there would be some kinds of feeds coming from those, but it's not something I've ever looked up. Hey, Shizzy asks, is there a possible airdrop on CrocSwap? I guess it's always possible. They have a Discord. The DEX itself is not live that I can find. They push everybody to their Discord. So I haven't climbed into their Discord yet, but maybe there is a opportunity there, man, to get engaged, get involved. Look like some really smart folks. The guy running it is big, came from big institutional, making markets and doing all kinds of high frequency trading, quant stuff. So, they sound like a legit team. I trust, Saf at Young Capital was one of the people interviewing him. I have utmost trust and respect in Saf, although he's made some bad calls too, just like all of us. But yeah, I definitely think there's some potential here, and go get involved in our Discord. Maybe you can find out and come back and tell us how to get that airdrop, buddy.
Is this crocswap.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crocswap.com.
CROXSW. No, that's not it.
Yeah. No, CROCSWAP, like crocodile.
Okay. Now there's another one called with an X that is a DEX as well. Crocswap.com. Oh, okay. I just want to see who the team was. That's what I was trying to get at real fast.
Yeah.
All right, we got
so VC backed, Positive Sum, and Motivate.
Erdem Yagan, Junior. Wait, why does this look familiar?
I have no idea, Joe.
Have we have not talked about this before?
We may have brought it up, but didn't get into it. I think at one point it was on my radar a month or two ago, and I had it in our list, but I'm not sure we ever actually did bring it up. I don't remember. But I did. If we did, I didn't understand what it did until today in any way, shape, or form, and I still have a surface level amount of knowledge about it.
This is exactly the kind of stuff we want to be looking at now. Just like this. And what was the other one? Canto. And there's a couple of other ones we've talked about that, this is what I think we got to do now is find the next ones.
Oh, yeah. I got to do my daily shill. I got to do my daily shill, dude.
Yeah.
Canto's up to...
When are you putting those tokens in the show wallet, man?
Never. Never. Canto's up to 83 million TVL and is one spot away from passing the Cardano blockchain in TVL. So that academic circle jerk over there, that's pretty pitiful. If in 1 week, a brand new chain is going to surpass the TVL of a community that's significant in size. I mean, how bad is that for Cardano? That's just pitiful. Pitiful.
Yeah, well, there's no big fresh hot money is going to go rolling into Cardano like it would into a new play.
How do you have this cult of thousands of people that are still not putting shit into the DeFi applications on your chain? Why? Because it's slow and painful and difficult, and because they are studying everything. And whereas these guys say, hey, you know what? There's this really great chain on Cosmos called EVMOS or EVMOS, however they pronounce it. It's EVM compatible, high performant, built-in bridging capability. Let's fork it. And then let's build in our own protocols. Lo and behold, here we go.
Yeah, well, let's not start giving Canto a victory lap when they've barely gotten out of the starting gate.
Of course, it's only a week.
3 protocols.
This is less about Canto and more about how pitiful Cardano is.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have no problem going after Cardano, obviously. It's just almost getting boring, It's like I'm waiting for this guy to just implode or something.
Well, and
exciting.
I'm actually shocked that Cello wasn't able to grow more. I mean, they're still stuck at 139 million TVL. I'm a little shocked by that, really. Because
I'm just looking at the chains right now.
I mean, Canto's only 5 spots away from that. Now, Bitcoin TVL, I don't even know how they measure. What do they measure Bitcoin TVL?
Canto's at 30. Yeah.
Oh, Lightning.
I guess, man.
Oh, Canto's about to pass Bitcoin in the Lightning Network too. Getting close on that.
Oh, Target's, yeah. I'm looking what's above. It's got like small Wave's got 5 protocols. Osmosis and Elrond only have 1. Fusion's got 2. Thorchain's got 1. DeFi Chain 2. Mixin's 5, and it's at number 11, and I've never even heard of it. MIXIN.
Yeah. I've heard of it, just have no clue about it.
Yeah. And then with top 10, we all know those. Kind of interesting to see Optimism in the top 9 now. They've made a decent little move. But number 2, your other big fanboy favorite dude, you got his little poster up on your wall. Tron. I'm on DeFi.
Shizzy asked what chain does it run on? QuackSwap, I think, is going to launch on Ethereum. And then he did talk on the show about being on all chains. He said, I think the quote was, "We will deploy to every EVM compatible chain." But right now, I think they're launching. It's not launched yet, but I think they're launching on Ethereum. So,
wait, is Canto? Hold on.
Yeah,
Canto lending and Canto Dex, right? I see them in the airdrop column over here on. That's the one that they already did, right? Oh yeah, 6.84 days ago. Got it.
Those are the 2 components that are built into the core blockchain, right? That there are no fees for. Now, on Monday, I had a chat with the core founder, Scott Lewis, and there's a really cool thing coming from Canto. Again, folks, I don't have a lot of money in this. I'm not trying to shill it to pump my bags. I just like the mission. It's experimental as hell. The whole thing could collapse. The blockchain could freeze up. You could lose anything you put in there. So don't put any money in there unless you like to experiment with new tech and new chains. Enthusiastic community. Everybody's helping each other out. Projects are deploying all over the place. It's cool. It's fun, right? If you want to have some fun, experiment with blockchain concepts. Think about how a new decentralized concept could happen. That's great. Core concept behind this is free public infrastructure, fully decentralized, completely owned by the DAO. They deployed, they gave up the keys to a bunch of other stuff in the chains on the system to the DAO, and they launched. By free public infrastructure, they mean that the core protocols, lending and DEX, charge no fees. So every trade is fee-free. The only thing you pay is the gas, and the gas is cheap as shit, like 0.00 whatever. And the idea behind that is rather than making money off of people's transactions, encourage people to build more on it and use it more. And I think it's a brilliant idea. But here's the really fucking cool thing they're doing. They are launching for builders an NFT you can get. He calls it the Turnstile NFT. And if your protocol doesn't charge any fees, normally the gas fees get burned, but if your protocol doesn't charge any fees, that NFT will get you 20% of all gas fees that come from your project, right? So aligning incentives so that people will deploy, people will not charge additional fees to make money off of people, and then they'll take 20% of the gas fees that people would have to do anyway to transact. Then the cool thing is he said, in order to prevent people from having to go to VCs to raise money and infiltrating all the projects in the space, they are setting up a lending protocol against future gas revenues that you would get from the 20%. Right? So if they project out, I don't know how they're projecting it, how they're planning it. He said it's going to deploy in probably about 30 days. But the idea is, if you're a startup, you have an idea for a project, you want to fork a project and bring it over, and you want to be part of kind of the core protocol of this free public infrastructure with no fees, you can deploy on their chain, agree to have no fees, take the 20% gas cut from the NFT that they give you. And then if you want more funding to bring on more team members and ramp it up, whatever, they will give you a loan against future gas fees, and a percentage of those gas fees that come out later will pay back the loan. So it's self-repaying, right? You don't own payments. There's no interest, nothing. So kind of like Alchemix at the core protocol level, a self-repaying loan on future revenue, but it's I thought that was a really cool concept, because now you can have all these builders saying, look, I don't need $500 million to live, but I would like, if my protocol is successful, to make a good living. And I can be kind of part of the ethos of a free public infrastructure on this platform by offering my product for free for people to use. But I know that if I'm successful, if I do my best to build a great project here, then I'm going to make a lot of money from gas fees. So to me, it's a really brilliant strategy. And, I'm cool with it. Now, here's my biggest concern about this protocol. All of the contributors received all of their tokens already. There is no vesting schedule. There is, nothing, right? And it's a big chunk of the current circulating supply. That said, huge amounts are being emitted now. The emission schedule is aggressive. I think they really want to get everything out there, even the playing field out, and then have the thing run on its own. But the emission schedule is aggressive. So the one thing that gives me pause is that these founders are,
able to dump at any time.
Exactly. That said, I spoke to Fubar, our buddy Fubar, right? And who I have utmost respect for. He has launched, this is his project, Forte Swap. So it's a solidly fork on Canto. He is very good friends with Scott Lewis, and he understands the concern, but he said he's head first diving into this thing. He said, yeah, it's a valid thing to think about. I said, my biggest concern is adoption. Like, I'm not concerned about my, couple of $1,000s worth of tokens getting dumped on. I'm more concerned about adoption and people coming and finding out that there's no vesting schedule for the core contributors, and that they could dump, and that people will be paranoid and nervous about coming in. That said, I felt like Scott was incredibly mission driven. I felt a lot of trust in him after talking to him. I have no way to determine if he is trustworthy, but he has a long track record in the space. I looked at all the core contributors. They all have a long track record of building in the space. Most of them are anonymous or pseudonymous. Scott and one other are not. So that is something to be concerned about. I would not ape into this thing with a ton of money. I would check it out, come play, come join the Discord, help other people, get involved, learn about it. If you've got skills and you want to bring in a dev and you want to launch a project on it, man. Follow the ethos, decentralized free public infrastructure, and let's see where it goes. But other than that, end of shill for the day.
Well, so this one is, I get it. Okay, so you get a share of the gas fees instead of a transaction fee. What were the transaction fees on Binance? Like 0.01 or something like that?
0.075.
0.075, okay. And that was about all you saw when you traded there, because there was nothing else.
And DEXs
move in and move out, yeah.
DEXs are more, right? Hold on, Shizzy, I'll get you the link. It's on there.
Because you can do, it's not you can kind of match up the bids and the asks in ways that are advantageous to the spread. So yeah.
Shizzy, I think if you go to docs, go to docs on their homepage, canto.io, go to docs and go to the bottom of the page, and there's the Discord link. I pasted it into the chat as well.
Yeah, I think all of these, I had a discussion with someone about 6 months ago on DEXs, and they were kind of people were well, this person was, others too, on DEXs, because there's just so many out there. And it's going to come down to like what we always talk about: who has the biggest community, who has the most compelling offerings, who can service institutional and retail. Yeah. And groups like Sushi Swap and people like that have just been at it for a while. But when everybody changes a feature like this, I kind of like it because it forces everybody to innovate or adjust. So
and that's
saving money and incentivizing developers to come over via the share of the gas fees. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if that goes on, if that's par for the course. So when you come in, you get a share.
Phantom has done. Phantom had a grants program, which they killed, but they had a grants program that was providing builders I don't remember what the percentage was, but with a cut of revenue up to 2 years, up to gas fees, of gas fees for up to, I think it was 2 years. And that was wildly successful. I mean, that a lot of people came on to Phantom. That's when TVL really grew on Phantom, was because of that. It was very successful. What I love about this one is you're tying the gas. You don't get the gas fees unless you agree not to charge any fees in your protocol to users, right?
For trades.
So you're or whatever, trades, lending, whatever it might be, whatever you're launching, NFTs, minting, whatever you're launching, you have to agree there are no fees, right? Now, if it's NFTs, there could be a minting fee from the artist, but there would be no percent of the house, right? For those transactions. And then when you agree to that, then you get the cut of gas fees. Well, then what's the incentive for you? The incentive is to drive as much as you can into your protocol, right? So you're going to aggressively market, you're going to aggressively add new features, you're going to think about new features, because now your incentive is aligned completely to that usage, along with keeping that kind of mantra. And then your incentive is also aligned to drive more people into Canto itself, right? So I think it's a really smart way to kind of enforce this ethos of, of free public infrastructure. And anyway, I'm sure everyone's tired about talking this. We should move on.
No, but look, you're right. If you have to get the critical mass that Canto needs, it has to attract these protocols. And if a share of gas fees is higher than the amount of money that, say, the protocols would spend on marketing and this and that to bring their communities and TVL to Cantos, then that's a viable incentive to those protocols. If it's not, then it's not.
Well, exactly. And they can still look. There are a certain set of protocol builders who are going to say, I really love this concept. I believe in decentralization. I love the idea of not charging users, and I can make this money, and I can get funding up front for deploying on this chain, and that fits their ethos. Other people.
Brad, is this the one that you said that just launched the thing out into the wild the other day? We mentioned this. This has just been built and launched, and it's out of control. I mean, not out of control in a bad way.
The DEX and the lending smart contracts cannot be changed.
See, that's the one thing we got to keep reinforcing, because I kind of sort of lost that in the clutter with the other stuff we talked about, is that this is a big experiment where it's out running on its own. And so anybody that comes that believes in the ethos like you're talking about and the purity of decentralization, this is where they should be playing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, anybody else can come in and launch a protocol, and they can have VC money behind them, and they can charge fees, right? It's up to the community to decide whether they want to use those protocols or whether they're compelling enough to pay the fees instead of using the rent-free stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be a mix. There's going to be a mix of players in this space if it continues to grow as fast as it's grown. Right?
Wasn't it DeFi that was doing the gas fee trades last year, and everybody was on Polygon anyhow, so it was just so dirt cheap that people just stopped using the gas fee because it was too slow.
Yeah, DeFi has that built into their DEX where you can choose gas free, or they did, and it wasn't even like a special. It was like the way they processed the system or something. It didn't charge gas.
It wasn't effective though, because Polygon's just so cheap.
Look, you're not going to make billions and billions of dollars being fee free on Canto unless Canto blows the hell up, right? And even then, probably not. So it also attracts kind of a mindset. Like, okay, how much is enough? And can I build the best fucking thing on this chain so that everyone comes to use it, right? And I think that's, look, I love the ethos. Again, I have that big concern about all the contributors getting all of their tokens in advance and not vesting. That to me is a concern. But I'm also not
characterized in the fair launch.
I mean, it's in the documentation. There's no vesting schedule, etc.
But you know how there are advantages to fair launches, and that's what I'm asking you. Do you think is it being characterized by them as a fair launch? Is that why they distribute everything?
They don't call it that at all. Okay. They don't use that terminology at all. But I mean, there's no VCs. Everybody's putting in. It's all bootstrapped. All them putting their own money and time in. So, and for me, because I'm not investing a ton of money in this thing. Look, if they dump, they dump. I think that the ethos actually could help it survive that dump, right? And it's running, it's functioning, it has a model. So from my perspective, I'd lick those wounds quickly and move back into seeing what else you can do on this. So I think it has a ton of potential, but I'm sure people are just over us talking about it.
Well, no, I think this is the kind of thing that people want us to find for them.
Yeah,
because
I've just been talking about it a lot lately.
Yeah, well, since what's your last name, Brad Canto? All right.
Yeah, that's it. Look, I'm just enthusiastic, man.
No.
After everything, like what you were just talking about, after everything we've been going through, I want systems like this that are thinking like this. It's exactly what you just said. And this decentralization ethos, this let the community decide, this, all of this stuff, to me is really important for us. So Eamon says lock tokens always seem to create sell pressure. Good point, I guess. Yeah. Shizzy says, I actually like that they all have the coins already. I hate unlocks. This way they have incentive to not dump the market until it's big enough to not care. That's a really valid point. I was thinking about that a little bit yesterday. It's like, well, you could borrow against the tokens you have if you need income, right? In the lending platform. And you're going to hold them until you're worth $500 million, whatever. And then by then, if they are, the whole network is self-sustaining. It doesn't care if you dump. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Eamon said, people always end up selling off before unlocks, and then they're a bunch of nothing burgers.
The day before, 2 days before, everybody's trying to out dump you. It's like the snow dog dilemma. Everybody's trying to dump before the unlock.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you tank the price before the unlock, and then they tank the price.
Exactly. Yeah. Eamon, you still in Vegas, buddy?
What?
Eamon was out in Vegas this week. At a retreat for a really cool protocol he's working on. So maybe we'll have him come on and chat about it next week or so.
Yeah, I think I saw that. It's at that protocol called the Camelot. I don't know if you've ever been to the Camelot out there, but
that's it. It's the Camelot. He said just about to head out. Yeah. He needed some recovery time this morning.
Take a pocket full of fibers, so be good to go.
There you go. All right, let's move on. I had this open, but we already did our economics talk. But UK inflation to hit 18% as energy bills skyrocket, recession fears hit markets as it happened. I don't think we need to go economics anymore, but I didn't realize the inflation was that high.
That's UK, and remember too that they just started raising interest rates a week the last cycle. They had held off, and they're trying to catch up to the US. So.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're not in the EU anymore, so you've got the Brexit stuff probably affecting their supply chains.
True.
And let's face it, it's just the UK. Okay, so.
Yep. Did I tell you my supply chain story?
No, go for it. So,
our first vacation of the summer, I took my car into the shop the day we left.
Oh yeah. It never got fixed or whatever. They couldn't get.
They didn't put in and look at it for the entire 2.5 weeks I was on vacation. When I got back, they put it in and looked at it. Right. Then they ordered the parts. So that was June 27th. It is now August 24th, and the parts came in yesterday afternoon. So I have paid, the discounted rental car rate of $35 a day.
Yikes.
All of that time except for the 15 days that I had covered under my warranty, and they covered 5 days. But yeah, and gas. I don't buy gas. Remember, my van's a plug-in.
That's right.
So I'm also having to buy gas. So I may get my car back finally today or tomorrow.
It is funny about this. I have a little car supply chain. I was, I had a tire blowout around like sunset or whatever. It was just, I didn't realize it, but it had been on a nail, and it was pretty much flat. And I was driving around town just kind of thinking, wow, the handling feels a little off. Maybe I'm going to get the suspension.
Don't you have like those run flat tires on that thing?
Well, yeah. Then I was coming out of the Whole Foods, and I looked, and I was like, holy shit, that's flat. So I was looking for a place to go, and then it went out. So I managed to find a Tire Kingdom within a couple of blocks of me. And so I rolled it in.
Sponsored by Tire Kingdom.
Yeah. There's our sponsor. And so I go in, and they're like, I said, can I just get 2 tires? And they're like, yeah, you can, but we don't have the Michelins. And I'm like, well, what do you got? And the only thing we got is the super cheap tire. And I'm like, we'll put 2 of those on. And they could do it in like an hour or so. But there's just, the stuff isn't up to full speed yet. in cars. I mean, it's a mess out there for tires and things, and nobody wants to spend money, and nobody's driving because of gas.
Yep.
So,
all right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of wanky stuff going on, but I'm not. Again, you know me, I feel a little more positive than negative on all this macro stuff. I mean, from a U.S. perspective. Again, I know the Europeans got a tougher road to hoe with the gas and energy, obviously, in a war.
Right.
But I'm just saying, from my perspective, I'm not feeling as negative.
Yeah.
So what's Kramer saying?
So not Kramer. So this guy Algod on Twitter, I follow him, and he's a bit of a dick, but he's fucking hilarious. And he got into it with Do Kwon last year, saying, "You're not going to hold peg. You're not going to make it. You're going to fucking collapse." And Do Kwon said something shitty to him, and he said, "I'll bet you $1 million." And Do Kwon said, "Your size is not size." And then, then when Do Kwon posted,
you mean
about
like the $1 million bet is too small?
Yeah, and then when Do Kwon posted, Do Kwon posted the post about how everything falling apart, Algood tweeted back at him, "Your size is not size." So then, this guy's fucking hilarious. So he decided, I guess a couple of months ago or a month ago, he took him a month. He decided to start inverse trading against Jim Cramer's recommendations, and he turned 50 grand into 100 grand in a month.
Oh my God. That's great.
It's so
whatever
awesome.
Jim Cramer's picks were, he was betting
shorting,
shorting or going.
And if Jim Cramer said short, he would long. Yeah.
No, it's funny.
Cracks me up.
He's using a little. Oh, I thought they looked like leverage there, but no, it's something else.
Yeah. We're on the final step of the merge. All the wallet upgrades are happening. Everything else. Now it's just deploy the code, gentlemen, ladies. So,
I saw a great merge article in Fortune, a good summary. I'm going to put it in the comments. Doesn't look like it's in a paywall, but just for anybody who hasn't caught up on all this, or just to read another source from a trade.
That's hilarious. Niblet says Kramer has weighed in. Shit, nobody wants to hear.
Yeah, Kramer was like the mid 90s to late 90s guy. And he sort of followed on the herd on the street, which was that Wall Street Journal column where there was a big insider trading thing with Fauci and those guys. And, he would say it on CNBC. He'd pick a stock and all the day traders were trading it then. And so it would move up. But then, like you say, people figure out if Jim Cramer's saying it, it's pretty much too late.
Yeah.
So, that's probably a better move because then everybody takes profits. So you're better off shorting at that point.
So our illustrious SEC chairman made a detailed post about how they were going to treat crypto the same as they treat everything else, yada, yada, yada. Mark Cuban went off on him on Twitter, basically said, "What the fuck? Where is anybody supposed to go? You don't tell anybody anything. It's completely different. You can't make the same rules, blah, blah." I mean, he went off on him like, come get me. But here's the thing that really grinds my ass. The fucking SEC chairman is posting, government opinions behind a fucking paywall on the Wall Street Journal. Now, what does that tell you about Gary Gensler, right? I mean, how fucking brain dead are you that the place you posted, I went to the SEC website and you cannot find this post anywhere on the SEC website. And this is like the third post he's done behind a paywall on the Wall Street Journal. So the American people now have to fucking subscribe to the Wall Street Journal to find out what the SEC chairman wants. It's just everything about him is just this obnoxious tradfi. I know it makes you nervous, but I don't understand how brain dead they can be about their appearances. They tell projects, come in, talk to us, blah, blah, blah. That's what Cuban was talking about. And then they
arrest everybody.
Then they sue and arrest people. And it's like, why the fuck would anybody trust you? It's just this kind of like,
everybody I know who's gone in the talk. I mean, I don't know these people personally, but everybody I know through lawyers have told me that have been gone in there to talk. In the end, they almost all get friggin' written up, basically.
Exactly. And there's 0 point in going to talk to the SEC.
No, and I hate to say it, but it's just not. It's just not. I mean, we saw the news like last week or the week before when they're finally nailing an ICO from 2017. I can't remember what it was called, but we were joking about it. They're still looking at everything. So if you go in and move, you're going to move yourself to the top of the list.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just no.
Might as well be the guy that they come after 5 years from now. That gives you plenty of time to get the fuck out of the country.
Well, and all those guys that basically did the ICO at, like, I'm thinking of one, like that genetics one, genomics, Shavome.io. They did this monster ICO, I want to say like early 2018, maybe one of the last ones I saw around.
Right.
And then everything collapsed in price.
Yeah.
Yet, when they're arguing with people, they're arguing over the ICO price as a securities event. They're not, I don't know if they're arguing with anybody. I'm just saying that in this talking, it comes down to that number when that money's all gone. So a lot of people, another group in Vegas, they raised 30 million. They go in and spend 12 on lawyers to cut their settlement. And then the SEC's okay, we'll pay back the 30 million too. Yeah. So now you're down 42.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, I just, if you didn't do anything like, hustle, shady, screwing investors, lying, if you made technical mistakes, I don't know, man. I would really think through if I was going to go introduce myself to them.
Would not go near them. James says, did you guys read? No, James, I'm not reading it. Not going to even give him the attention. I don't subscribe to the Wall Street Journal.
When I saw that come out and there was a lot of pushback on it, it looks to me like now we got CFTC, FDIC, Treasury, and SEC all trying to figure out and stake territory as to what they're going to do. I mean, Gensler's best bet now is to get out and go take the private sector job before the hard work really starts, because he's too polarizing at this point.
He's all posturing. All he does is go in and rah the guys he hired to replace the guys he fired and tell them to go get them so he can boost his record for his next, government job or run for office.
Culture. That's just what he's going to be like. Yeah. That's not really government regulator culture. So, it's a different type of person.
Shizzy said, Shizzy says, are you guys preparing for the fork? A lot of people I follow are selling all their ERC20 tokens into ETH to capitalize on the proof of work chain. I keep thinking about doing that. And the more I think about it, the more I don't want to fucking be bothered with it. Look, I think there's money to be made from selling the ETH tokens you're going to get on proof of work. But how fast do you have to do it? Like, what do you got, 5 minutes before that whole fucking thing collapses over there? Those guys are not going to be able to do anything to prop up those prices over there. So I don't need the frantic shit in my life. So I'm probably going to just be curious, see what's going on over there. If I have some ETH in my wallet at the time, I'll go dump it over there. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a total clusterfuck. I could be wrong. This is not financial advice. You do what's best for you. I can't do let me frantically go over there and try to sell this shit before everybody dumps thing.
But is Shizzy saying that his pals are all dumping like their shit coins basically into ETH?
Yeah. So that when the fork happens and the proof of work forks, you get all that ETH on the other chain, and then you go over there and dump it, right?
Well, aside from that, Shizzy, I was thinking about this last night because I was watching, the last couple of days, I watched some of this stuff, the gains be given back, on some of the ones we look at, Matic, Phantom, go down the list. And I started thinking, if you came in and bought stuff at like I know people who bought Phantom in the dollar range, to your point of selling all the shit coins, it almost makes sense to sell those at the low position and book the loss and rebuy the position because there's no ban on wash trading. Okay, right, so you can rebuy it within 30 days. So it makes sense to just dump and rebuy, and then start that cap gains clock ticking. Yeah. Now, sure, you're going to have more of a taxable gain because it's going to start from wherever it is now, let's say half a cent. But it would be at the capital gains tax rate, or you just deal it at ordinary income. But the point is, you book that loss in there. Yeah. Which can help offset your gains if you have much this year. So there's something to think about.
I want to, if the SEC ever comes knocking for me, I think I'm going to call up remember the OpenSea head of product guy that got busted for insider trading?
Yeah, what was he doing again? He was like
well, he knew what was going to be listed, so he'd buy it up before and dump it after the listing, right?
Okay.
So his attorneys are basically putting the SEC onto, is it a security or not? Because what they're saying is the charges are invalid because NFTs have never been defined as a security. So they're really going balls to the wall here and not negotiating. It sounds like for any kind of deal. Sounds like they're going to challenge and say you got to throw this whole thing out because what he did was not illegal because these were not defined by the SEC as securities, which forces the SEC's hand. Does the SEC then say? Does the SEC then go into court and say yes, these are securities and here's why, and then have implemented a broad definition of security because they would have to define it, right? That they are now stuck with it within the SEC as it relates to digital assets, or I don't know. There's another way to defend it, right?
Well, so this is just. There are also basic laws around defrauding your employer and defrauding your customer. If you're taking advantage of.
But that's not what he was charged with. He was charged with insider trading.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The SEC will just say, okay, well, you don't want to be charged with that. We're going to charge you with this instead.
Well, the DOJ would have to do that.
Well,
right. So
somebody would at that point. Yeah. If you're going to get this, if you're going to go down this path, then we're going to bring out all the other shit we could charge you with.
Of course, but that's up to a whole nother department of government, right? And it gets messy and everything else. But I think
he committed fraud. Okay, he committed fraud. All right, that's anytime you do something like that, it is fraud. So, they're going to get him on something at this point. I would be settling myself. But I like the fact that it will get NFT defined as is it security or not. All of these things help.
Or the SEC will back off. However you look at it.
But the SEC isn't the only one. Now you're getting into, district attorneys. You're getting into local law enforcement too.
My point is this: as the attorney, you got to knock down the first charge first, right? The one that has 20 or 30 years in prison time.
Oh, I don't know what the charging sheet looked like.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is they need to knock each one out at a time. You don't want to and the other thing is just because you settle these charges doesn't mean state attorneys, federal attorneys, DOJ, FTC don't come after you as well. So you might as well knock this out and put SEC on the spot. Either define it or drop the charges. Yeah.
7-year lawsuit. 7-year lawsuit. I hope he's got the money to fund it.
I think it's smart. Well, he won't have any after they're done.
No, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of choices. If he's staring down 30 years like you just represented, you don't have a lot of choices here. You got to fight it now. But the point is, don't be so friggin' stupid.
Of course, look, the whole thing was shitty and stupid and took advantage of people. I totally agree with that. He's an asshole, but his attorneys are smart with this strategy as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I don't know what his exposure is, but I like the fact, hey, let's get NFT. What is it? We need to figure that out. Exactly. And I don't give a shit if this guy goes to jail for how long at all, because he did break the law.
Eamon said, I thought he was charged with defrauding his employer, not so much insider trading, but only how it relates to his employer. No, he was charged by the SEC with insider trading. Defrauding his employer would be
so we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Or no, the employer could sue him.
Now, he did get wire fraud counts.
Oof. That's bad.
Maybe the DOJ filed the charges on behalf of the SEC. Maybe that's how it works. So maybe there are mixed in charges. So maybe his attorneys are just trying to pick off as many of them as he can. So when he negotiates, he gets a better deal. That may be what they're doing.
Well, the only thing we know is those attorneys are getting paid.
Tell ya.
There's nothing better than
this is not a public defender, I don't think.
Life-saving money that keeps you from dying is money you will always spend, and money to keep you out of jail is money you will always spend. So they're going to believe this guy.
I got to go. Dude, it's 1 o'clock. I didn't realize.
Shit, man. I didn't know that. All right.
I got to run. I got a call I'm late for. Ladies and gentlemen, love you. Appreciate you. Thank you for participating. Eamon, Shizzy, James, Niblets. We had a nice crew today. Love that you guys help us out. Thanks so much. If you have thoughts or ideas, B05 Crypto on Twitter and Telegram, B05 Crypto. Always feel free to reach out. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and click the little bell on YouTube so you get the latest episodes. Please spread the word on Twitter. Hope you enjoyed the show today. Joe, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great
buddy. Talk to you soon.